This is brought to you by Satterfield on Highway 280 in Alex City. Satterfield is the Lake Martin area's big green egg and accessories headquarters.
All right, coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy. 256-234-6221. Love to hear from you. We're at JR Sports Bar and Grill. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Love for you to come out and have a great lunch. And reminder out there, with all these events going on in Strand Park next week, the good thing for you is right across the street there's JR. So if you're hungry, you're thirsty, you want to come in and take a little break from what's going on in Strand Park, JR's is perfectly set up for that, so we would love for you to do that. British Open currently in a weather delay, 60-mile-per-hour gusts out there this morning. 32 minutes of play probably shouldn't have happened. Lots of golfers gave at least a stroke back in those 32 minutes, Dustin Johnson being one of those. He's currently still tied for the lead at -9. We're moving into media days. Georgia picked in the East. Alabama picked in the West, but Auburn picked as the SEC champion. And if you're an Auburn and Alabama fan, which a majority of us are, the SEC champion vote looked like this. Auburn got 96 points, Alabama 80, and it drops all the way down to 28 for Georgia. So if there's any such thing as media love for one state, it's for the state of Alabama right now.
And they've given no reason for that to happen or for that not to happen. Alabama and Auburn have represented the East or the West the last 5 years. So I think that indicates where the programs have been going and what they've been doing from a success standpoint. But Georgia, again, like Luke and I were talking about on Sports Blitz Tuesday, and he said something that you could say for Georgia every year. Like, you could really pick them to go 11-1, 12-0. Or you could look at it and say they could go 7-5 because they could pull a Georgia. And that's the thing with Georgia. I think that they should just run away with the East. There's no reason why they shouldn't. I think that although the quarterback, they're kind of undecided on what they're going to do there. I think Nick Chubb, and outside of Fournette, is probably the best player in the conference. So I think that you saw what they were able to do with Gurley. You get Mitchell back. So I think that from an offensive standpoint, with Schottenheimer coming in, I think his system will benefit whoever the quarterback is. And then Pruitt now being kind of settled in from the defensive standpoint. So Georgia getting the East nod is something I think most people would expect. But Auburn, Alabama, I think it was just a toss-up, whatever your personal preference was.
Tennessee comes in second in the East with 36 points. You look, Missouri's third. Missouri's won that division the last couple of years. Still not much love for them.
I mean, I actually have them going 9-3, but they're one of those teams that they've kind of just snuck their way in there, and mainly it's had to do with the fact that last year, of course, Georgia allows Florida to win, and that bumped them in there. But Missouri, back-to-back SEC championship appearances, so I don't think that people would have expected them to be more successful than Texas A&M, although Texas A&M gets the most hype between the two programs. Missouri has been the more sustainable.
256-234-6221. You think any of these teams are overrated? Do you think they're undervalued, any of them as well? So you look over here on the Western Division, Alabama picked to finish first, Auburn second, LSU third, Arkansas fourth, Ole Miss fifth, Texas A&M sixth, and Mississippi State seventh. I mean, it is a meat grinder. Would you be very shocked at all to see Texas A&M win the West?
No, I actually think I mean, I have them going 11-1. Their only loss being to Auburn, and then Auburn's only loss being to Georgia. But I think Texas A&M and Auburn are very similar programs. They both, and there's been a lot of coverage about that this week, but they're very similar. They inherit similar situations. They both have new quarterbacks coming in, new defensive coordinator, great offenses that haven't been able to keep opponents from being able to score the ball on the defensive side. So I think that they definitely could. The one team, though, I think looking at it, and it's not an indictment against Mississippi State, but I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. But the way the schedule sets up, and as you said, the meat grind, it's a grind to get through the SEC West and the SEC as a whole, but the SEC West in general. So, as you said, you wouldn't be surprised with anyone, and that just more so has to say about the depth of the conference more so than an indictment on anyone else.
Well, you look, you got Texas A&M that you just said. I'm equally as bullish towards Texas A&M this year also. They got a returning quarterback who played extremely well to end the season. If you want to point to the Auburn and Texas A&M game, they came to Auburn last year and just throttled us. And I think Coach Malzahn, you can tell, still upset about that one. But defensively, they got a new defensive coordinator, the same as Auburn. You've got to think if if you're a hopeful Texas A&M fan, that
is that a bigger impact than Muschamp coming to Auburn?
I think it's equal. We'll just see which one of these programs come out of the cellar, because defensively both have been pretty porous. Now, A&M I think has been even worse than Auburn. I think Auburn finished between 60 and 70 overall and overall team defense this past year, whereas even in 2013, when Auburn goes to the national title game, almost wins it 13 seconds away, they finished 85th in the country in defense. So, I think that's going to be the big stickler this year, is which one of those teams jump up to a 15 to 20th ranked defense. Imagine a Kevin Sumlin or Gus Malzahn coached offensive team and an offensive-minded head coach like that to put a defense out on the field that's a top 20 national defense. Now, Muschamp's proven he does that everywhere. That's what he brings to the table. So if he can do that, or if you get vice versa the same from Texas A&M, watch out for both of those programs, in my opinion. Let's go to the phone line.
You got Justin on the line.
Justin, you're on Sports Blitz.
How you doing today, Jeff?
Good to hear from you, Justin.
Well, I was just listening to y'all, but I agree with y'all about the Texas A&M and Auburn, how we struggled last year. The main thing I'm looking for, I've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of my friends are big Auburn fans, and what they've been talking, they're predicting Auburn be 9-1 chance of winning it all this year. So I'm looking forward to see what Muschamp's got to do and see how our quarterback's going to do. But I'm really looking forward for is Jeremy Johnson a senior or junior this year?
He's a junior.
Yeah, he's a junior. So,
okay.
Yeah.
But he's a third-year guy.
Next year, him and White to battle it out, because White looked pretty good during the A-Day. So he's going to be good in a couple of years.
I think Auburn fans, if it goes how I think it might and how most anticipate, Auburn fans should try to get to know Jeremy Johnson as quickly as possible, because if he puts up the numbers that I think he might, I don't think he's here but 1 year.
He could be a chance for a Heisman Trophy winner.
I hope it does.
Well, Justin, we appreciate the phone call this morning, buddy.
One more question. Y'all were talking about the mascot being here. When is that?
That's on Tuesday night. And please turn down your radio dial if you don't mind. Just listen to us on the phone, because we're getting some feedback there. But that's Tuesday night. We'll have Albie out here at Strand Park from 5 to 6. We'll have our programming as well. It's from 4 to 7 up here at JR Sports Bar and Grill. But Albie will be here.
Where's Strand Park at?
Strand Park. Do you know downtown Alexander City? You know anything about it?
I know where Avondale and all that is.
Okay, let's see if the best way to explain. I tell you,
where the Jazz Fest is held.
Yeah, where the Jazz Fest is held. If you've been to there.
Yeah, I've been there.
That's it, right there. So Strand Park is where the Jazz Fest downtown is held. So come out Tuesday and make sure everybody out there, and pass the word around for us, Justin.
All right, I will. War Eagle, guys.
War Eagle to you. We're up against a break here. Beautiful weather. Love for you to come out, be part of the program. We're at JR Sports Bar and Grill, as we are each and every Saturday from 10 to 12. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Wireless Advantage is Lake Martin's Verizon premium retailer, located in the Marketplace Shopping Center on Highway 280 in Alex City. We've got all the latest cell phones, along with the latest Wi-Fi internet products, home phone options, and state-of-the-art tablets. Don't get caught in long lines. Get full Verizon service and products from Apple, BlackBerry, Droid HTZ, iPad, LG, Motorola, and Samsung right here at home. Visit Wireless Advantage in the Marketplace Shopping Center in Alexander City on Highway 280 for all your Verizon wireless needs.
Excitement awaits you on beautiful Lake Martin. Alex City Guide Service can provide you with a charter trip of a lifetime. Licensed charter guide David Hare has over 20 years of experience on Lake Martin, specializing in live bait fishing for trophy-sized saltwater striped bass, largemouth bass, and spotted bass. Alex City Guide Service can accommodate your group with its fleet of available guides. Call Alex City Guide Service today at 256-401-3089 or visit them online at www.alexcityguideservice.com.
Why should CNT Electric be the company you call when you have electrical issues? Because CNT Electric is locally owned and operated. Our technicians are professionally trained, drug tested, and background checked for your safety and security. CNT Electric guarantees their work and offers straightforward pricing. So call CNT Electric at 256-234-0007 the next time you have any electrical issues.
Central Alabama Community College is proud to be one of Alabama's 5 original community colleges. Central Alabama combines innovation, flexibility, tradition, and the latest technology to provide a quality education tailored to meet anyone's needs. Whether your aim is a 2-year degree or a jump start on a 4-year degree, you can feel confident that you will leave Central Alabama with a sharper focus on life. Find out more about the world of opportunity that can be yours.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy, 256-234-6221. Love to hear from you. Who do you like in the SEC? The SEC media chooses Auburn to win the SEC championship, but chooses Alabama to win the West. It's Alabama 1, Auburn 2 in the West. On the Eastern Division side, it's Georgia 1, Tennessee 2. Who do you not like? Which part of those do you think people are too high or teams are too low? 256-234-6221. Mention that, and we'll move in and continue to talk about the vote overall. I want to, as two Auburn guys standing up here, you think it's a year early, or are you on the bandwagon right now, Scott?
I'm on the bandwagon. This is about the year that I anticipated that, we'd starting to see the rebuilding process happen. I think 2013 spoiled some people, and it happened a little quicker than what we were anticipating as a fan base, and I think it even happened to Gus as well, which the success of 2013 kind of stymied what we'd be able to do 2014, because truthfully, Jeremy Johnson probably should have been the starter last year, but you can't take Nick Marshall out after somebody who just took you to an SEC championship and 13 seconds away from a national championship. So I think that the ranking and the votes are warranted, and I look forward to seeing Auburn make a run for the SEC championship.
Alabama, your feelings on Alabama heading into the season, and defensively, here's the true strength of Alabama. Their defensive front. There's a bunch of pros up there, and when you can say that, you're gonna continue to be in ball games, Scott.
Yeah, and defensively, as a whole, Alabama doesn't really have a weakness. There's some spots on the offensive line they needed to address, and obviously you lose Cooper. But the quarterback position, I think, will be what determines everything. But as we saw last year with Blake Sims in that offense, with that Kiffin offense, they do a good job of getting their playmakers the ball and getting creative and getting them in space. But I caught a little flack last week from Jacob Meacham, new to town, but 9-3 for Alabama. I think that they are good, but I think that they're one of those teams where it's like Texas A&M. I think they swap each other out, either 11-1 and 9-3 for those two teams. But I had them losing to Georgia, A&M, and at Auburn, all three of those games being on the road. So we'll see how it goes.
It's the road games, it's the scheduling, and the reason the prognosticators were not so high on Auburn last year, and for good reason. You saw that play its way out to close the season off with losses to Georgia and losses to Alabama. Playing well against Alabama, but not too good against Georgia. Alabama, you mentioned the quarterback play, still really have not tipped the hat on where he's going there. Nick Saban says he's happy with where Jacob Coker is, but reading between the lines, you would guess Jacob Coker would get the nod to start the season, but there's a whole bunch of players. I just can't tell the separation there. The only true thing you got with Alabama coming into the seasons, they've got a bull back there in the backfield and Derrick Henry that barring injuries, a 1,300 to 1,500 yard back, and he's going to keep them in whatever they need to do running that football. And you may see Alabama go back. Last year it was more of an Amari Cooper coming out party and trying to get him in space and getting him matched up in a man coverage. But this year it may be back to what we saw with Nick Saban just pounding that football.
Yeah, and they also get the addition back of somebody who is much hype as Auburn and Jeremy Johnson been getting. Kenyon Drake has gotten a ton. And now, granted, I know it's warranted his skill set could really be beneficial for that offense. They've been saying Reggie Bush-esque, and I don't want to go that far, but what they could use him as and with Kiffin, I think could be a good benefit for the offense. But as you said, I think that Henry, not as good as Chubb or Fournette, but the yardage and what he is expected to do for his team, I think he can handle it. So Alabama, again, you look at it, and really and truthfully, you could say every year 10-2, 11-1 for Alabama, but that kind of gets old, and I want to try to do a little something different. But I could legitimately see them going 9-3 in those games.
Derrick Henry chosen to the second team All-SEC preseason at running back. The first two clearly Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette.
You're not a big Fournette guy.
I'm not a huge Fournette guy. I see glimpses, and when a guy's back there and he's returning kickoff, Scott, that always opens my eyes. And because I'm, Brent Fullwood and Bo and Bobby Humphrey and those guys were so dynamic that you could put them and they made space. But Fournette, so that tells me a lot. But it's hard for me not to go back to the first part of the season, and maybe LSU should have gone to him quite a bit more. But yeah, they tried to go to him a good bit against Auburn, and he had some glimpses there in the first part of the ball game, but they moved away from that. So I don't know. I'm not extremely bullish on Leonard Fournette. I don't look at Leonard Fournette and say, boy, he's 10 times better than Derrick Henry. I don't look at him and say, I'm telling you, Leonard Fournette's a whole lot better than Rock Thomas's potential. I just – and it's hard for me to believe. No, now, clearly Auburn does not deserve to have a running back because they got new ones coming in on the first three teams. But who in the world believes – Muschamp's, or Malzahn's not going to have a 1,300 to 1,500 yard back. He always does. 2 years ago, he has a 2,000 yard back. Last year, he has a 1,500 yard back.
And Tate was a 1,400 yard back.
Somebody's going to come out, and he's going to end up with a back that's going to be one of these first two teams, I believe, by the end of the season.
It's going to be tough. I definitely think that the numbers will be there from an Auburn team. I don't know who it'll be, Javon Robinson, Rock Thomas, whoever it may be, but I actually think Leonard Fournette will join Nick Chubb and Jeremy Johnson in New York. I think the SEC will represent three, or how many ever they have, but they will have at least three guys in New York. I think those are the two running backs are the two best players in the country, in my opinion. I think Fournette has everything you're looking for in a running back. He's big and he can run. As you say, he can return kicks as well. So I think that he'll be the main cog in the wheel for them to be able to have success at LSU. But again, they don't have a quarterback settled either. So we saw what happened when Jennings came down to Auburn in that game. So I don't know if they want a repeat of that. But if they can get some type of quarterback play, I think with Dupree and I can't even think the other receiver's name, but I think their receiving core matches what Texas A&M has. And so if they can get any type of production at the quarterback position, they're going to be scared.
Let's throw this question out there as we head to break, and it'll stay with the receiving core. Who takes up the slack for Alabama this year for Amari Cooper? Amari Cooper, unbelievable top 10 NFL draft picks I'm expecting to have a big breakout year. And I know Raiders fans out there that have been waiting for something positive to go their way for a while, is hoping the same. Your thoughts? Who do you think takes up the slack for Alabama? It may be by committee. I'm sure it will be. And who are those guys that you're hearing or hope to see or look forward to seeing? Because that's the beauty of going into a new season in college. When you get a stud back there like a Peterson or a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning when he's at Indianapolis or Andrew Luck, you get 10, 12, 14 years. You kind of know what you got. But in college, you may only get 1 year of Jeremy Johnson, and then you get the next guy coming through. And that to me keeps the talk really going out there, because you don't know what you got an idea and you're guessing what you're going to get, but you don't really know what Rock Thomas is going to do. We've been hearing about Javon Robinson for 4 years. We heard he's the best player by far that was there last year, Gene Chizik, and then he ends up having to transfer out because of, whatever great issues and problems that came around. But he's back. And again, we don't know what he's going to do, but would I be shocked in a Malzahn offense if he comes out, one of those two comes out in the first game and goes for 175? No, sir, I would not be. So Who do you think? Who do you think, though, on the Alabama side in the receiving core steps up? 256-234-6221. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Your comfort is our number one concern. Advance
all of these issues. We've got all the events in there and descriptions of all the events. So there's plenty of places out there to find out what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm just really impressed with everybody that's been involved with the process. And there's so much that goes into event planning. I've had some experience with that, and it was on a smaller scale than this. There's multiple events for an entire week. So I know some people may get mad at me for saying this too, but this is an opportunity for people who have questioned why things aren't going on and why there's nothing to do in this community. This is a good opportunity for that to happen. So make sure you go out and need to bring events in like this.
Listen, if you're one of those naysayers out there that there's nothing to do around here and nobody's trying and there's no effort made, come on. I mean, you're going to have to preach out one to somebody else. And this week, as Scott said, you said it a lot better than I can, Scott. There is no excuse for those of you that want to complain about things to complain. There is so much effort that has been going on behind the scenes to make this a great week in the Alexander City and Lake Martin region for tourism, for people coming in and out. So have a big smile on your face. Welcome people in. Tell them that we appreciate you coming to our community because it's so very, very important and vital to us. Sun Festival that's going on this upcoming week. Scott, I'm going to kick it over to you. When you look at the all-SEC team, and let me quickly go back to the phone lines, and we've got Luke. You're on Sports Blitz.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Luke. Good to hear from you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we've got you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Luke. Please, back there in the studio, just let Luke know that we can pick him up. And we lost Luke there, so hopefully we'll get him back. The all-SEC first team. It's crazy to look in the Western Division, and I would like to know if this has ever happened. I know Paul Hornung won the Heisman Trophy with a 5-5 Notre Dame team. So, but Mississippi State picked to finish dead last in the SEC West, yet their quarterback's the first team all-conference quarterback. I'm not sure that's ever happened, Scott.
Yeah, and a lot of that is by default. I mean, now granted, you couldn't.
Luke's back.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go back to Luke. Luke, welcome back to Sports Blitz.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Good to hear from you, Luke. Well, Luke's having a hard time picking us up. I tell you what, let's try to go back to Luke in the next segment and try to get the phone line situated there. But back to Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I think it was just really by default. I mean, he put up some tremendous numbers, but if you look at how the season ended and when their bigger games started to occur, he kind of faltered a little bit, especially after the Alabama game. But I think it's okay to I don't have a problem with it. I think he is the best returning quarterback in the conference. So from that perspective, I think he's deserved it. But I can easily see years in Jeremy Johnson being selected as all-SEC quarterback there. But I don't have any discrepancies.
Yeah, Jeremy Johnson was actually chosen as the second team all-SEC pick at quarterback. Let's go down the first team on the offensive side. Dak Prescott, Mississippi State, your quarterback. Your two running backs, Nick Chubb from Georgia, Leonard Fournette from LSU. Two wide receivers, Laquan Treadwell from Ole Miss. And the first Auburn or Alabama player we'll mention, Duke Williams, picking up 154 votes. Named to the first team. No shock there, Scott.
But he couldn't make the Biletnikoff list. I mean, neither one of them, Treadwell or Williams, made the Biletnikoff list.
And that's 48?
48 receivers that are better than those two, and that's not the case at all. So that's why I don't take much credence into these lists and these preseason polls and rankings of players, because you can't tell me that there are 48 receivers better than Duke. I don't think there's 5 better than Duke. I think that Duke is, from a prototypical receiver standpoint, that's exactly what you're looking for. And then you look at Treadwell. I mean,
same thing.
I mean, it is the exact same thing. Both will be beasts on the NFL level.
De'Runnya Wilson, another one.
All right. What do you think about De'Runnya Wilson? Is he a Sammy Coates kind of guy where he's more of a just go down the field, we'll throw it as deep as we can, and you go catch? I mean, there is a space for that in the NFL, obviously, but I don't know if he's an every down receiver. I mean, I think the skill set's there, but I haven't seen enough really.
We'll see this year. They're going to need to lean heavily on him to make plays this year without Robinson back there in the backfield at running back. So you're not going to see those yards. And with Prescott, he's going to be very, very vital that De'Runnya Wilson. So to me, Duke Williams and De'Runnya need to upgrade what they did last year. Duke only had 730. I mean, I'm saying only, but he was not even a 1,000-yard receiver. He had 45 catches for 730 yards.
3 games, though.
Okay, you keep throwing all that. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like
44 catches, I think, or something to that extent.
730 yards. I mean, but to go to what, Amari had 1,600 yards.
But the
I'm not
offense
saying
was catered to Randall Amari.
But this year with Jeremy Johnson throwing the pigskin around Buddy, those numbers could run by that. And I'm not saying run by 1,600, but run past 1,000 yards. So and Derunya, I think, is going to have that same opportunity this year. I don't know. Sammy was that type of player that, you go out against Alabama and he gets 220 yards receiving, you go, wow. And then you get lost and he's got 2 catches for 35 yards next game because of what you said. So there's really no answer to that. But let's continue to run down before we head to this break on this first team list on the offensive side of the ball. Tight end, Evan Ingram from Ole Miss, your first Alabama player. We'll mention Cam Robinson on the offensive line. He gets the most votes by offensive lineman. Laramie Tunsil from Ole Miss. He's still got some big question marks around him, and if anything comes down from the NCAA on Laramie Tunsil, but he was chosen by the media. But All Alexander from LSU, John Theus from Georgia, and another Alabama offensive lineman, Ryan Kelly, your center, at 144 votes. 2 offensive linemen for Alabama. If you're an Alabama fan, you got to like that, Scott.
Yeah, and there's no shocker there. Now, granted, I was a little surprised to maybe not see I can't pronounce the guy's name from A&M, but Texas A&M will definitely have one of those guys that goes top 5, top 10 in the conference. I think he was second team offensive lineman. But Cam Robinson definitely deserves it, as well as Ryan Kelly. And then Tunsil, regardless of whatever's happening with him, the talent is there. So I don't really have any problems with the first team at all.
We'll go ahead and take a break. When we come back, who do you think was left off of this list? Who would you like to see replace them if you thought someone was left off of the first team that deserved to be there? 256-234-6221. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
What are you waiting for? Call Kenneth Ingram Jr. now.
My name is Kenneth Ingram.
All right, coming back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Let's quickly go back to the phone lines, and hopefully we can catch up. Luke, you there with us, buddy?
Yeah, I am this time, I hope. How's it going?
Good to hear from you, Luke. And last segment of the program, so perfect timing for you. Let's talk Alabama while we've got you on here. Several players named the All-SEC, a kind of a split vote with Alabama being picked as the Western Division champion and Auburn being picked as the SEC champion. Your thoughts on Media Day this week?
Well, when Scott and I did Sports Blitz Live Tuesday, I said I thought they would pick Auburn to win the SEC. I guess I didn't get specific enough, but quite frankly, I would rather win the SEC West than I would be the SEC, because you got to win the West to be able to win the SEC. So it's kind of the immovable force versus the irresistible object. So I mean, it was a very wild vote. It's the first time in the history of this voting that has happened. But I think that is a testament to how crazy this year is going to be nobody's got a good handle on this thing. Frankly, and I'm not surprised it went down this way, but Jeremy Johnson was the second team All-SEC quarterback, and we've seen so little of him. I mean, we've seen him, but we've seen very little of him, and I think it's, you know, pretty incredible that he gets that kind of recognition. I personally would put him there too, but it still is mind-boggling in the sense that it tells us how few returning quarterbacks there are coming back. It's going to be a crazy season, and I can tell you right now, the way that the predictions went down, I can certainly go with a lot of it. I do believe people are short-selling Texas A&M on the voting. I also believe people are short-selling Missouri. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Missouri won this thing and did a three-peat. They've got a good quarterback coming back in Matty Mock. They've got a pretty good running game coming back. They always seem to have good receivers. Meanwhile, on the Texas A&M side, they've got, if you buy into the Jeremy Johnson hype, I think you have to buy into Texas A&M's quarterback hype too. And I think you have to at least give Texas A&M more credit for having beaten Auburn last year and for having the best wide receiver core maybe in the country. And they also have Myles Garrett, who I might predict the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, which is something if you saw Texas A&M play last year, you wouldn't have ever dreamed.
Luke, I think we know this, but when you look down and you just say the names out on the Western Division side, and you look at the bottom, Texas A&M picked 6th in the West, Mississippi State picked 7th. It's got to be the first time that a team has picked dead last in their division of the conference, and the quarterback coming back is the first team All-SEC preseason pick right there. I just wouldn't be shocked to see any of those teams right up there near the top, closing to the end of the season.
No, it is just really, this whole season is an anomaly. You look at Dak Prescott, he would start, I think, for any other school in this conference. I think he would be the number one starter for any school in this conference. And De'Rania Wilson, I think he would be a starting wide receiver for any school in this conference. So they got some talent. I love Chris Jones, even though he hadn't necessarily fulfilled all of his potential that I thought he would when he was a high school senior. But I just think this Mississippi State team has got some talent. So it comes down to, okay, what are the tiebreakers in here? I mean, I think Alabama's got more talent than most everybody, and I think LSU's up there, but I have to take some points away from LSU just because of the direction of the program. Then you look at somebody like Auburn. I think I'm going to put Auburn up there in the top 1, 2, 3 teams in the SEC West, which, you know, you say if you pick Auburn, the third team in the SEC West, it's a slap in the face. I don't think so at all. I think this is still the toughest division in all of college football. So if you finish in the top 3, you're going to be pretty salty. I mean, you could go 10-2 and be number 3 in the SEC West with 2 blowout losses and still be a very, very good football team. And then you've got Ole Miss. I mean, how do you figure them out? A lot of people want to just discredit their losing their quarterback because he was so hit or miss last year. And they do have Laquan Treadwell hopefully coming back off that injury, and Robert Cannon. They've got Tony Connor. They've got talent everywhere. Evan Ingram is the first team All-SEC tight end. But you know, Texas A&M, I've already talked about them, and then Arkansas. Kirk Herbstreit came out and said he hadn't necessarily given his predictions just yet, but he's leaning towards picking Arkansas to win the SEC West. And if you took a poll of 10 people, I would say probably at least 3 or 4 of them would have Arkansas finishing last in the SEC West. So it's crazy. I mean, nobody knows where this season is going to go. But back to the tiebreaker, I think one of the things that will be is the scheduling. And you look at somebody like, that's what scares me about Alabama's schedule this year. They play Georgia from the East and Tennessee from the East, who were predicted to finish 1 and 2. Meanwhile, you look at somebody like A&M, there's maybe a little bit more manageable. Auburn's got, you know, Georgia on the schedule, obviously, and that's going to make it a little bit tougher. And then that's one reason that I'm also scared of Georgia on the other side, that they've got to play Alabama and Auburn from the West. So, gosh, I really trying to predict this year. I don't want anybody to base my intelligence off who I predict this year because it is a total crapshoot.
2 more quick things before we let you go. We got Luke Robinson on the phone with us. And Luke, any updates from Alabama's side and on the quarterback situation, or just any feel from you on it right now?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to let it be a lead-in to this. Last night, the local chapter of the Lake Martin Bama Club, which is the local alumni chapter, very happy to announce that they won the small division in-state chapter of the year last year, and that is no small feat. That is not just some award somebody made up. This came from the National Alumni Association, and you can go to the Facebook page, Lake Martin Bama Club, and check it out. Buddy King was the president last year, and he did a phenomenal job with the Willie Carl Martin Day, which was a huge fundraiser for the chapter, and it was a big-time event, a lot of fun. And the way that I'm going to answer your question with that is that I happened to be sitting next to somebody last night who does have some insight into the Alabama program. And they went on and on about the fact that they think Jay Coker's going to be all right. They think Jay Coker's going to be all right. Well, if I were just a fanboy and I took that at face value, I would feel a lot better. But I'm not just a fanboy, and I'm using my own opinions based on what I've seen from Jay Coker to make me believe I still have a lot of doubts. I mean, not just a small amount of doubts, a lot of doubts about Jay Coker. And I don't believe he'll be Alabama's starting quarterback, early in the season, midway through the season, whenever. I think he will start the game against Wisconsin. That is the vibe I'm getting, that he will start against Wisconsin, but I'm not sure he's going to make it till game 3, game 4 is the start.
Saban's comments this week at media days, most of the time Saban feels, the feel is that he's got a prepared something that he wants to address, and he does that, and he does it well. Just some of your thoughts on media days and Nick Saban.
Well, Nick Saban is still one of the more hated people around the country, and which means he's just relevant. People want to take what he says. If you read the actual transcript of his quotes about the thing about the draft and getting evaluations, it really wasn't that big of an excuse. It just wasn't that big of a deal. But people love to take something from SEC Media Days because, frankly, this SEC Media Days, despite the fact that there's so much unknown, was relatively boring. There wasn't a lot out there. There were a few cute Steve Spurrier quotes, but it wasn't a big deal. So they take something Saban says and they take it kind of out of context and make it into something about him making excuses against Ohio State. I don't think that's what he did at all. And if you go back to after the Ohio State game, he was like, Ohio State was better than us. I mean, I may not be saying that verbatim, but he pretty much said that. And in this particular instance, when he said something about, hey, maybe it's not the best thing in the world for our guys to get evaluated between the SEC championship and a playoff game. And you know what? I mean, take off your homer glasses, everybody, for a second. He's got a point, because if I'm a player and I'm projected to be the 3rd, 4th pick in the draft, I may be kind of worried, or somebody that may be in my ear helping me out make this decision may say, hey, try not to get hurt going into this thing, or my concentration may be somewhere else. Whereas if you get this evaluation after the playoffs, you can devote your whole thought process to the playoffs themselves. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he had a point. The problem with Saban sometimes is just like always. Sometimes he just picks a poor time to say things, and I think he's more a victim of that than he is excuse.
Great call, Luke. Hey, we appreciate it, buddy. Look forward to having you up here next week. And yeah, we lost Luke. And Luke, we appreciate it, buddy. Up against the break, top of the hour, and look forward to having you up here next week, okay? And that's Luke Robinson there. And Scott, great points that he makes. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll kind of mull through some of those. We'll go back
I'm going to do some mulling, yes.
We'll get some mulling in. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. More of the Sports Blitz. Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Lunch doesn't have to be the same old fast food or burgers in your busy day.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. We're live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill, as we are each and every Saturday from 10 to 12. Beautiful weather outside. Love for you to come out as we look across the street at Strand Park, and it's going to be a happening place this upcoming week with Sun Festival kicking off. It's actually going on right now with the Sun Festival pageant, but tonight will be the first event that that we hope all of you come out to, and it's the Glow Run. Starts at 8 p.m. here at Strand Park. Continue to make plans to come out and be a part of all of the Sun Festival events that will culminate with David Nell concert next Saturday night. That's at the Sportplex here in Alexander City. Tickets still available. Tickets going well, absolutely. But you can go by the Chamber and also LXCityChamber.com to pick those tickets up. He's got new music out. Look through all of the Chamber social media outlets, and they'll pass along. Perfect timing to have David Nell here in the Lake Martin region. Your thoughts, Nick Saban's comments this week, and then we'll roll over and talk about Malzahn, who I don't think meant to have a tough comment, but he did. But let's start with Nick Saban, his comments this week.
I get, and I understand where Luke was coming from, but in my opinion, I don't think that has anything to do with anything. And the fact that it's not like Cardale Jones wasn't getting some type of conversation said about him about going to the NFL either, or some other Ohio State players or anybody else that was playing. Had they won when they were up 21-6, it seems like that their concentration wasn't off then. So looking at it from that angle, I think the intention was good, like Luke was saying, but the timing of it, and I don't think the intent necessarily was to come across the way he did as an excuse. That is the way it came across. So if you say that their preparation, when their concentration, when they're based off the fact that they were getting conversations about the NFL, that's not really fair to say that that's why they lost. But, I mean, I get it, and it is SEC Media Day, and it is Nick Saban.
I thought the point that he may not have presented it perfectly, which is very hard to do. You and I are talking heads sitting up here right now, and a lot of times I'll say things, I wish I probably wouldn't have said them just quite like that. It's tough when you're talking a lot. And, we talk a lot, Scott, and he has to talk a lot too. But I love what he's saying because it's true. It's not going to hurt the NFL to push this thing back. I mean, push it back. And Major League Baseball, I've heard Tim Corbin say the same thing from Vandy. Come on now, it's not going to hurt it. It's a lot of pressure on these kids. Let them finish. Let them finish playing out their time with their team. There's plenty of time for them to worry about that other. But, when they bring the draft into the middle of many of the players, Vandy had 2 players taken in the top 10 picks. And then they're dealing with that. And, they're trying to keep it separated, but it's next to impossible. You try to put yourself in their shoes, Scott, and life-changing events are going on right now in the midst of there's not life-changing, but it's one of the biggest events of your life, trying to win a national championship. I just don't see how those 2 leagues, the NFL and MLB and NBA, I don't see why in the world they can't come together and come up with something that works all the way around.
I get that, but Amari Cooper was going to be a first-round pick regardless of anybody told him or not. So he knows that he can't get hurt. That's when I guess what I'm saying. If you're a top-tier talent, you don't need anybody to tell you that you're getting drafted. Now, for you want to know if you're a first-round pick or second. I understand how that could maybe sway some of what your performance would be like. But if you say we're not going to do the evaluations till after the playoff games, then that's another thing too, because then that maybe they don't perform as well. I think the way it's set up, there's no problem with it because the fact that Cardale Jones or Ezekiel Elliott or anybody else that was playing was going through the exact same thing, and I know that covers everybody. But at the end of the day, if you're a top-tier talent, you don't need anybody to tell you that you're going to be good in December 15th or January 15th.
256-234-6221. Plaxico Burress does not like Nick Saban, if you're wondering. I mean, he's ripped him up several times on Twitter. I think in his book he also ripped him, but he ripped him this week, and he said Nick Saban looked his players in the face at the Duff, said he wasn't leaving. I'm committed to the program, and was gone the next day. True story. Now Nick Saban players are being distracted by the NFL and chasing a dream. Ha ha, tell your story, Nick. LSU showed you the money. You was gone. Ha. So I bring this up saying that this is the world we live in college sports, Scott. It's okay for these coaches. Nick Saban's done it a couple of times. Tommy Tuberville, Lord, he did it. He pine boxed his way out of Ole Miss to Auburn. So, I mean, I'm throwing, Auburn under the bus also. The problem is that it's set up that way, and I feel for the kids in a lot of situations like this because they do commit to a program. Yes, but they commit to the coach. They commit to the process that coach is going to put them through because these big name kids, they think they're going to the pros no matter what. I would veer out there to say that 80% of the kids that are brought into Auburn or Alabama think they've got pro potential. Maybe 20% don't. That may be high, but I would say at least 80% are 4 to 5 star kids, and they think if everything plays out right for them, they can make it to the pros. So how do you make that decision if you're Jeremy Johnson? You go somewhere where the system's set up nicely for you to show off your talents. You go to a Malzahn. How do you play that way if you're a defensive back like Humphrey that's sitting over there at Alabama? Of course, you end up at Alabama with the best secondary coach and one of the best defensive minds that's ever done it, Nick Saban. I get that, Scott, but the coaches kind of are hypocrites and for saying anything like this, and I'm with Plaxico Burris for saying anything, because they do the exact same thing and their agents spin them this way.
Yeah, and that's my problem with it. If a player wants to transfer, then he has to sit out a year, and then they say you can't play within the conference. There's a lot of ramifications behind a player wanting to transfer. A coach can get up and go at any point. Now, granted, he'll have to pay a buyout, but the other school is going to pay it for him. So it's really no money coming out of pocket for him. So that is something that I think needs to be addressed, but you could never really do anything about it other than allowing free release for any player. Now, granted, that could start a slippery slope of some things, but I think that the players should have more freedom than what they have. But speaking of the Malzahn system and how that can prepare you for the NFL, Juwan Pass comes out, he commits to Louisville, and that is his basis of going to Louisville was he didn't think that Auburn's offense would prepare him for the NFL. So I don't know if he just saw Cam Newton get that tremendous contract, but I mean, I think that obviously Petrino is a great quarterback coach.
But okay. Who's the last quarterback that Bobby Petrino put in the league that's successful?
Was Bridgewater under him, or was that Strong? So that was probably Strong. So, not any really. Brian Braun, maybe. I'm just throwing out names. There isn't any. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can say that, but what does he put into the NFL?
And I get that they may say that it's a pro style, whatever. But yeah, I'm with you. There's so few that are able to make it, especially able to make it. Even Cam Newton, who's I would say 15 to 20 in the league overall as a quarterback, even to make it, he's got. I mean, clearly with this salary or this new contract negotiation you just went through, Carolina thinks he's worth more than that, but that's what his numbers really show. He hasn't had to do much more. Let's quickly spin over as we'll head in, and I'll bring this topic up, and we'll come back and we'll talk about it on the other side. 256-234-6221. Gus Malzahn makes a pretty interesting statement this week. The chances of teams up north coming into our state and taking a player that us or Alabama wants are slim to none. This is about satellite camps. This is about Harbaugh and Michigan and other teams from up north that Franklin at Penn State that want to come down into the South and take away some of the players. Malzahn doesn't believe. What do you think? 256-234-6221. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Central Alabama Community College is proud to be one of Alabama's
Coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. Always great food out here. If you're looking for delivery, 256-329-2328 is the numbers. We'll have some Sun Festival specials up here at JR's starting next week. We'll have them on the board as you walk through, but we know there's a ton of things going on across the street in Strand Park. So JR Sports Bar and Grill is going to be a great place for you to step in, eat, take you a little break from being out there in the midst of it. We've got Show Your Colors that's brought to you by Lee Marketing Group on Tuesday from 5 till 5:45. Albie will be here out in Strand Park. So for you Auburn fans that want to have your kids' picture taken with Albie, he'll be out here from 5 to 5:45 on Tuesday. We'll have our high school media days, is what we're calling it here in the local community. All of our local high schools, cheerleaders, band members, we've got a lot coming in, and we'll interview a lot of those out in Strand Park from that 5 till 6. But we'll also have the Lake Martin Sports Roundup inside JR's from 6 to 7 that evening. So make sure to come out that. For you Alabama fans, yes, we've tried. We had hoped to have Big Al this year. It looked promising, but they've got a ton going on in Tuscaloosa, much like Camp War Eagle that's going on over in Tuscaloosa. So this time of year is tough to get Big Al in, but we'll continue to try to reach out and hopefully have him be part of this event in the years to come. 256-234-6221. Your thoughts, Gus Malzahn's comments. He said the chances of a team up north coming into our state and taking a player that us or Alabama wants are slim to none, Scott.
I absolutely love it, and I don't know if it was intentionally – if it came across the way that he was wanting it to, but I love it. And all this does is intensify that battle between the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, granted, the SEC is the most dominant conference, but the Big Ten has had its number in some of these bowl games here of late. And with Harbaugh coming in, you have Meyer, you have Franklin coming in now to the SEC, and especially the state of Alabama. I think that Nick Saban and Gus and the rest of the SEC are going to enjoy this back and forth a little bit with the Big Ten. But as much as I love the SEC, I am kind of a Big Ten guy too, so I'm interested to see how it plays out. But I love the theater that's going on right now, which is all this is. It's just drama for everybody else.
Yeah, we know this about you. There was a picture that was pushed out on social media last week that had a truck that was riding around, and somehow I know they had an Alabama and an Ohio State
and an Auburn
sticker all on the back window, and Scott and Drake were the first two that came to mind for us when we saw this picture out there. Scotty, he will run over to Ohio State fandom from time to time, and that didn't just start with that national title.
Well, at least you preface it with that, you know.
6234622 is our phone number. Make sure to call in. Some other comments from last week. Malzahn says, just about everybody in our league has some type of tempo. Even the teams that used to gripe about it are actually doing it now. So it's something that you've got to get used to. So it's here to stay. I think it's part of football. It's fun to watch. It's made it enjoyable to watch. A lot more offense. The old-timers out there may say I would much rather see a 10-7 game, but I think that you're in the minority right now. And just here, but there can be some great defense, and that's what Auburn's hoping for, and that's what Alabama's had for a long stretch.
Yeah, and I like what he said, but as a person as we've been covering high school football for a long time now, the landscape of high school football has shifted into being more too. So that's really what you're having to select with as a college. So they had to change their scheme kind of from the high school level, and then NFL's kind of starting to adapt a little bit from the college side too. So I'm all for it. That's why a team like Arkansas, I don't necessarily think they can be as successful as a team like Alabama, just based off the fact they can't recruit as well, so they won't be able to get those same types of players to be able to run the system they'd like to. But I'm all for the more scoring. I do like good defense, and there is quality defense to be played. But anytime you can get more fans in the seats, then you're going to want to have more score.
You Boyne, and here in our local community, we got a high school legend that coaches here, Danny Horn. He's as good as they ever have put him out there in the state of Alabama. I'll put it that way. When he veers his offense to an up-tempo run to the line of scrimmage and get the next play off, it's changed. The dynamic has changed because he won most of those state titles in a wishbone attack, just slapping you dead in the mouth and good luck to you. I mean, I'm going to outman you. And we saw all we wanted with Clay County all of those years, and many others did too. So, Scott, you make a good point. You even are seeing the Nick Sabans of the world and these other coaches out there saying this is where it's going, and I'm not going to lose by being stubborn.
That's the main thing. I think initially when the Tony Franklin system, when they had that first hire, that wasn't the right hire, but the idea was great, and you could there was a lot of skeptical people whether or not that type of offense would sustain. But once these high school coaches, really what happened, I'll tell you what, the coaching staff started to expand. You started getting more high school coaches in the area, or on your coaching staff, and that allowed you to kind of see what was going on the high school level. So whether it's South Florida or a kid out in Texas, they are running some type of offense that is more, I guess, conducive to a successful quarterback.
256-234-6221. Somebody said, why are you still coaching? I said, well, I forgot to get fired, and I'm not going to cheat. That's about the way you lose your job. You get fired for losing or you cheat, and then you get somebody else. I don't even have to tell you who said that. Steve Spurrier did. And Lord love him. I'm not quite as high on him as Andy Graham. I think Andy may shed a brief little tear if Steve Spurrier leaves, but he sure makes things a lot more fun when he's around, Scott.
Yeah, and the South Carolina Steve Spurrier is not as good as I think that not from a coaching standpoint, but from the kind of the character portion of it. Florida was so much fun to watch, and the type of comments he was making about Georgia and Tennessee, but he kind of fired off some pretty good ones during SEC media day. Knoxville and Arkansas saying, they're doing cartwheels for going 7-6, so maybe we should do the same thing. So I think that he had one, and I hope we get to it too when he referenced A&M, but he kind of knows how to win a crowd, and I think it's mainly due to the fact that South Carolina just will not be good this year. I hate to say that, but I think they're a 6-6, 7-5 team.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on Sports Blitz.
Hey, guys, I was just calling. Is Jackie O'Neal still the coach at Reeltown?
He is. He will be the coach this year, and I'm not sure how many more years he's hanging around, but he's no longer teaching in the classroom. He's just coaching, so Reeltown held on. I think they'd love to hold on to him as long as they can. He's another one of those legends here in the state.
Okay, retirement, but I guess that was just as a teacher.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of talked about on the football side too, and I'm sure that if you've been around Coach O'Neal, he's got a great personality, and he's still got a lot of life in him, and his teams are still playing extremely well. So he held on. I'm not sure how much longer, but again, good to see him still coming back.
Well, one question on the Auburn side, I know. Duke Williams got snubbed on the Blitnikoff watch list. Who was the last Auburn receiver that really got far on that list?
Oh man, great question. We appreciate the phone call. When you look through the list of all in receptions they've had, you know who the last 1,000-yard receiver was for Auburn, Scott?
I want to say Darvin Adams, but that's probably not right. So who? I don't know.
Ronnie Daniels.
Really?
Ronnie Daniels in '99, I believe, was the last 1,000-yard receiver for Auburn. Darvin Adams was close. I think he had in the 900s. Sammy Coates has been close the last few years, but I mean, not even a 1,000-yard receiver in a long time. So to me, it has to be Terry Beasley. I don't know if the award was even around back then, but I'm sure Beasley would have won it if it would have been around back then. But he's by far the most decorated receiver Auburn's ever had.
Yeah, and that was why I thought Duke coming into Auburn was such a major move for them, because they haven't had that type of receiver ever really to be able to bring in that number one guy. And I thought that if he was able to do well, then that would show that you could come to Auburn and be a big time receiving threat. But it hasn't really panned out how I thought. But hopefully with Jeremy Johnson throwing in the football, I think that his numbers will just blow everybody off the roof from Auburn's perspective.
256-234-6221 is our phone number. Mark Stoops. I always feel for these coaches, and Franklin made us change our thought process around that as well as he did at Vandy. But I feel for these coaches that go to these programs in the SEC right now and the uphill battle that they face. And he said, this is Kentucky's head coach, Mark Stoops. Really glad the first 2 years trying to build this program didn't kill me.
I mean, it's a grind that side too, and I really like Mark Stoops. I think he'll get another job off of this Kentucky thing. He might not make it, but he'll probably get fired at some point. But he's recruiting well. He just has to transcend some of that recruiting success onto the field. But the Derek Mason quote I thought was probably the funniest thing I heard. I guess it was referencing something along the lines of, I thought we'd play like an SEC team because we were in the SEC, but
I'll give it to you. I assumed that just because we were in the SEC that we'd play like an SEC team. We didn't. He got one more year not to play like an SEC team, and he's going to be out of town too, don't you think, Scott?
Well, he's defense coordinator now, so he's put – I don't think that was necessarily a problem. It was more so his inability to find a quarterback ever. I mean, you go through 3 in the first half of one football game, but it just doesn't seem like that's going to be a good fit, mainly because of what Franklin was able to do taking some of those players as well.
1994 was the first year for the Blitnikoff Award. Frank Sanders at that time was a finalist for that award. Sammy Coates was named to the watch list last year, so that's a couple of names. I figured Frank, but still Frank Sanders not even a 1,000-yard receiver any of those years. He was at Auburn. I think his highest mark, and this is just going off the top of my head, somewhere in the mid-800s that he had in yardage one year, which still nowhere near the winners that you're seeing. Amari Cooper last year, was it 1,700 yards?
Yeah, he had 16 plus. The thing is, though, it's about targets, and that's how you get your volume usage and getting these yards and that type of thing is you got to get targets. And when you're Amari Cooper and you're getting 12 targets a game, it's going to be easy for you to start racking up some of those catches and some of those yards. So I think that this offense will be more catered on the Auburn side, more catered to a more balanced attack that will allow Jeremy Johnson to kind of spread the ball around, and you'll really see some guys emerge, Marcus Davis, Ricardo Lewis, those types of guys, Tony Stevens coming along to try to help Duke.
We had a mention, or we had a phone call in during the break, and the name that they brought up is we had a question, who do you think takes up the slack for Alabama in the receiving core, and Ardarius Stewart was the one that was brought up. An outstanding athlete, unbelievable return man in high school, Fultondale High School, and you can imagine in that classification what kind of player he was. So that will be one to watch, and that is our question again. Who do you think takes up the slack for Amari Cooper? Big storyline for Alabama as they move in to this upcoming season. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
If you're looking for the best chicken fingers or wings in town, then look no further than JR Sports Bar and
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Got about 30 more minutes left here in the program. Love for you to come out, have a great lunch at JR Sports Bar and Grill. If you're looking for delivery, 256-329-2328. Reminder out there, Sun Festival activities going on all this week, 59 different events that will actually, the first event will start tonight. We got the pageant going on currently, but the first event tonight will be the Glow Run here at Strand Park, 8 p.m. They come out, they'll have luminaries throughout the track. It's a 5K. You can make it more than a fun run, but it's a fun run, walk, just a matter of getting out here and getting things kicked off the right way. So hoping for a big turnout for that. The finale will be David Nell next Saturday night at the Sportplex football field, and expecting a big crowd. Tickets still available at the Chamber, also online at elliccitychamber.com. He's got Saturday, so it's perfect timing. And if you haven't heard it, go to our Chamber social media outlets out there, and that music will be passed along as David Nell, top 10 hit musician there from Nashville, will actually from the state of Missouri. He's a huge Missouri fan, a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, a huge sports fan in general, Scott. So I kind of like those type of guys.
Yeah, and if y'all lucky enough, you might get to see me do a little 1-2 step out there too. Ooh. So it'll be, but I have them, you know.
I'm the worst dancer that I know, and for you to even learn anything from me makes you the second worst dancer in the world right now. 256-234-6221. Gary Pinkel's comments. Honestly, I don't know where we've been picked to finish in the SEC since I've been here. I don't want to disturb anybody here, but honestly, anybody that knows me, I don't ever read newspapers ever. Gary Pinkel doesn't care, and I bet he's been picked close to the last couple of years and been able to get through and make it to the SEC championship game.
Yeah, and they just keep finding a way to get there. Now, the first year, I'll give them more credit. It is an accomplishment either way, but Georgia kind of faltered toward the end against Florida, and that allowed them to get in. But, I mean, they're in the conference 3 years, and 2 other 3 years they've been – or this is their third year, so 2 of the 3 years they've been here, they've made it. So I don't know what else you could ask for him, but Pinkel's right. I mean, it really doesn't matter because you kind of already know if you're him that you're not going to get picked to win the East.
Home run derby. Did you enjoy it? We're going to bounce 30 minutes. Any topic you want to bring up, call in.
I thought it was a great setup. I'm a big fan of the Derby, the whole All-Star Week process, but that was a lot of fun. And then you see Frazier out there, the former Little League MVP hero, and just seeing him do it at home and win it. But I thought that the timing was great and just setting up in individual versus individual instead of letting it be going against a number.
Yeah, and you know, with the All-Star game, you know, you hear from those out there that say, you know, the ratings were not great for the All-Star game, but Major League Baseball's All-Star game is the only one that I would ever think about watching. It's the only one that matters. The only one I know that they rotate in numerous players, and they should, but they're trying to win, Scott, because there is something on the line there, and I like that it is, honestly.
I'm torn on that. I do think that you should be playing for something, but there are players out there that are representing other people that may not – that those players may not be in the game per se. So their bad performance is now affecting your opportunity for Game 7. I don't think who wins it affect, but I do like the fact that there is some pressure on them to succeed. But when you're having to rotate as many pitchers in and that type of thing, it does kind of set off the competitive balance. But that was a really good All-Star game on Tuesday.
Pete Rose, a little bit of a mediocre response to him, wouldn't you say? I know he's been out in Cincinnati before. It's not the first time they've wheeled him out on the field. And he's not wheeled. He's not in a wheelchair. But I'm saying it's not the first time they brought him out for an event. But I didn't feel like it was as warm a response as maybe a lot would have hoped for. And without that response, I'm not sure that Major League Baseball makes any changes on him. And it's kind of time to just lay it to rest. Or what are your thoughts?
All right. Before the revelations of a couple, I always knew that was the case. But a couple of weeks ago, I was all for giving him another opportunity to get in. I've been preaching to let him in, begging to let him in. I mean, regardless of what he did, I think that his play on the field warrants him in the Hall of Fame. Then it comes out and says, you know, he actually did bet on the Reds on his team while he was managing. So I think that skewed some things, and that probably eliminated the opportunity for him to get back in. But I think that's kind of cool, though, if he never does get in, from the standpoint that everybody knows what he was able to do. And when people talk about a Mike Trout or I saw a comparison the other day about Bryce Harper being Pete Rose mixed with Reggie Jackson and just the way he plays the game. So I love watching Bryce Harper play because he treats every play like his last, similar to what Pete Rose did. But I hate that things came out the way they have been because he will never get back into LB.
346-221 up against a quick break here on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. We come back. We'll continue down SEC Media Days. We'll take your phone calls. British Open currently, I think, in a weather delay as they had 60-mile-per-hour gusts this morning. 32 minutes of play. Probably shouldn't have sent the players out there. A couple of different instances had balls that were sitting on the green, actually roll off the green into the drink on one of them. And so those players, you know, it may have only done Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth gave a stroke back. These tournaments many times are determined by strokes, and you hope that that doesn't happen, especially here as an American, to one of those players that are in the mix. Dustin Johnson currently tied there at number 1 or at the top of the leaderboard. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Got about 20 more minutes left on the program. Love to hear from your thoughts from media days this past week. 256-221. And Scott, we mentioned on the eastern side, Georgia picked number 1 by the media, Tennessee number 2 Missouri number 3,
on the line.
South Carolina 4, Florida 5, Kentucky 6, and Vandy picked number 7. Let's go back to the sport.
Horse Ribbon Youth League sign-up next Saturday, the 25th, from 8 to 12.
Absolutely. Talk about it. What all is going on?
We have football players 5 to 12-year-old, and then we can entitled to the consent. Cheerleaders are 5 to 12, and we're looking to have a camp on August 1st.
Camp on August the 1st. Well, make sure to continue to call in and pass that along to us, and we'll pass it along out there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Our 4, 6, 7 program on Tuesday night, Scott, Lake Martin Sports Roundup that you host. We want to hear from you. If you've got kids that are out and about and they're doing great things, or you've got fundraiser ideas and things that are coming up, that's what that program's for, Scott.
Yeah, and I really love it, and as I said, I'm really looking forward to Tuesday, but this will be more so on the high school level, but we've been trying to do our best, and we've had this summer multiple all-star teams, so if we have not gotten to you at this point, be sure to contact Justin, and we'll get you on the show. But again, 6 and 7 here at JR's.
Western Division, Alabama picked number 1, Auburn 2, LSU 3, Arkansas 4, Ole Miss 5, Texas A&M 6, and Mississippi State. The SEC champion, though, the love is being thrown towards Auburn and Alabama. Auburn picked to win the SEC title, the first time in the 23-year history of the media making this poll and this vote. Has it split as Alabama's picked to win the West, but Auburn's picked to win the SEC championship, which we know can happen that way, but that's just how the vote played out. But Alabama gets 80 points. Auburn gets 96. The next closest pick is Georgia, all the way down to 28 points. So a lot of love being thrown towards Auburn and Alabama, and that's great for the state here. Scott, you had a couple of more things you wanted to kind of hit on. FSU's issues have been well documented over the last several years, and they're not stopping right now.
No, and it's very troubling, and we touched a little bit about it on Tuesday, but this is an alarming trend we're seeing, and this isn't like older people that this is happening with. This is my age group or around our age, and that the culture has changed. And I know we've kind of hit on a little bit of what some of the causes of that might have been, but the things that are happening around the college football scheme or seen out or unheard of, and I just don't know, when did it become okay to start punching women in the face? Like, I don't know when did that start happening. I mean, it seems like every week there's a new story coming out with some type of domestic violence situation going on. So obviously when you're that high profile of an athlete or a program or anything like that, the magnifying scope is on you. And when you're Florida State in particular, with all the things that have been happening going back to Jameis and now with Cook and Johnson, so there's just so much going on with them, and the culture that we've created for some of these kids as a fan base and as a communities around the university, to let them get away with so much stuff and having so much entitlement placed upon them. So there's just so much going on, and unless something happens quickly, it's going to continue to happen at a more alarming rate.
What do you do, though, Scott? You know, I throw that question to you, and put yourself in the coaches and the administration's shoes. I mean, I think it's always – I'm not going to say it's funny. I think it's ridiculous that fan bases enjoy problems that go on at other schools. I mean, trust me, Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban and Gus Malzahn, their goal is to keep these kids that they work so hard to coach up, and to also coach up in life in general, to keep them out of trouble. But they get in trouble. And how in the world? I mean, yes, some coaches do a better job ministering than others, maybe. But, I mean, things happen in all the programs. I mean, go to Auburn. We're sitting here as 2 Auburn fans. My gosh, that last year of Gene Chizik, I mean, you can go down the list at all the issues. And that's 1 year after a national championship where you feel like everything's wonderful and glorious. So, I mean, a couple of years, excuse me, but it's right there in the mix. A lot of the same players that played in that championship game were the ones that were getting arrested. So, you know, and then you go to Alabama and Nick Saban. They've had their little run where there seems to be more things going on than in years past. And Tennessee's having their troubles right now. Ole Miss is in the midst of it. It's tough. It's a tough thing. So I pose that question to you. What in the world do you do?
I don't know. The abstract answer is it really just goes back to the family household, and there's not enough men really in the household. These guys are getting raised by women, and there's a lot of contributing factors to what you see going on. But from an athletic standpoint, I don't know what you can do other than try to just keep your guys informed as much as possible and try to prevent them from being in situations to get in trouble. Now, I don't think it warrants them. Now, at Florida State, you may have to do this, but he's put a no bar ban on for the team, and I don't necessarily agree with that because I don't think that you should be able to punish everybody. Not everybody was participating in the thing or did what his players did, but and especially to a 18-year-old kid, they're so entitled now, and that's when you talk to some of these recruiting analysts, and that's what they say. Like, you can't make some of these demands that these coaches are wanting to make for kids that you've told for a year you're the best thing ever, and then you get here. There's just so much ego involved. But again, it goes back to the core of the fact that until there's a household situation change, then you won't see any of this changing as well.
Up against another break here on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. We're at JR Sports Bar and Grill, which we are every Saturday from 10 to 12. Come out, have a great lunch. Strand Park's right across the street. If you don't know where JR's is, find them on the website, social media outlets also. Great menu, great people, great food out here. They deliver. 256-329-2328 is their number. But during Sun Festival this upcoming week, a lot of events going on across the street in Strand Park. There'll be Sun Festival specials here at JR's throughout next week, so we'll pass those along. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Brands and sizes. And automotive repair, big or small. They'll even pick you up when you're stuck without a ride. And will deliver your vehicle back to you when repairs are complete. They have the area's best prices.
All right, coming back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, our last segment of the program today. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. And come on out to JR's. The beauty of coming out and being a part of the program up here is you are able to listen to the program as you come in. We have Sports Call from 4 to 6 Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. that we host right here at JR Sports Bar and Grill in the Lake Martin region. And Sports Blitz is on from 6 to 7 on Tuesday and 7 to 9, Sports Blitz Live, which is from the TV station. 10 to 12 every Saturday we're here at JR. So we're at JR's quite a bit throughout the week, and we'd love for you to be a part of the program when we are. Show Your Colors coming up this next Tuesday. Reminder out there, bring your kids out. If you're Auburn fans, Albee will be here between 5 and 5:45 across the street in Strand Park. If it's raining, he'll be inside here at JR Sports Bar and Grill, which has happened in years past. So, but Albee will be here. You can bring your kids out, have their pictures taken with Albee. To the Alabama fans, yes, we have reached out to Big Al. Unfortunately, it didn't work into the schedule this year, but we'll continue to try to get Big Al out here for the Alabama fans and their kids as well. So, big events going on all throughout the week as we'll close out the program today, just kind of filling you in with Sun Festival, which will be going on in the Lake Martin region, starting tonight with the Glow Run at 8 p.m. here at Strand Park. And Scott, I've seen pictures and been out and been involved in years past, and it's always packed for the Glow Run, and it's a great event to kick things off for Sun Festival week.
Yeah, and it's something that everybody in the family can participate. You can bring your dog, you can bring your children, you can bring yourself, just however you want to handle it. But this, again, will be a great starter for a tremendous week ahead for the community. And, again, I'm really excited about all the events that we have to take place.
Yeah, a ton of things going on. I want to talk about the events that are going on in Strand Park this upcoming week. As you will look, we got Good Old Days in the Park from 7 to 9. That one's on Monday night, and they have the nice setup out here, a DJ, things going on in the Strand Park area. Hopefully you've been out. If you haven't, again, there's plenty of ways to find the grand total of events that are going on around town this upcoming week. On Tuesday night, Boot Scoot and Boogie in the Park. That one is from 7 to 9. On Wednesday night from 7 to 9 is Motown Madness in the Park. Thursday is going to be a great, great evening here in the Lake Martin community as they have Faith Night, Praise in the Park that will be going on. Rush of Fools will be the band that will be performing out here at Strand Park. So make sure to come out. A lot of great sponsors that allowed this event to be brought here to the Lake Martin community. So make sure to make plans next Thursday night to come out. Celebrate the Sun concert will be at BRHS Auditorium at 7 p.m. Then from 8 to 10, be Praise in the Park here at Strand Park. 7 to 9, or next Friday night, you'll have band battle out here at Strand Park. A lot of great bands that will be competing to open for David Nell, who will be the headliner, 7 p.m. on Saturday, July the 25th at the Charles E. Bailey Sportplex. Still tickets available through the Chamber website, elliccitychamber.com. He's got great new music out. He's got a new album coming out, but the new song that will be hitting the airwaves this upcoming week, I think it actually started yesterday hitting the airwaves. A great song. I would say that it will be another one of his top 10 hits, that he's had 4 or 5 of those so far and a couple of number ones. So I really do believe that this is one of those that will be jumping up there. And it's going to be a lot of fun all week. And, again, I'm looking currently at the Lake Martin Living magazine. You can pick up a Lake magazine, pick up an Outlook, go to all the Elliott City Chamber social media outlets. There are ways to find out what these events are. There's little flyers that are out there all over town as well, Scott. If you're just coming into the community or if you're down in the Lake Martin community, this is for people to, not only the local community, but for people to find out what all the great things we have to offer here in Alexander City.
Yeah, and that's part of what's been so exciting about the event, for the events that are coming up, is that I've been hearing a lot of people from outside the area coming in, and especially around the lake, wanting to partake in what's going on around the community. So I think that these types of things are going to be domino effects for other events to be able to come in later down the line.
Another event next Saturday we want to make sure we pass along, one that we're heavily involved in, a cornhole tournament. Cornhole is Scotty will be in it. There'll be a bunch in it. Starts at 1 to 5 p.m. It's at the Sportplex, kind of leads into the concert setting up there for Sun Festival. But, Scott, that's going to be a lot of fun. You can still register. You can go to the website, elliccitychamber.com, and register for that. But, Scott, that's we're expecting a big crowd out for that also.
I did not know how serious cornhole was until I started hearing people getting ready to prepare for this, and there's certain type of boards people want to practice. So, I mean, I did not know, but I think next week is going to be very entertaining. I think me and Mark Worthy are going to try to put a team together. So make sure you go out and support that as well.
July the 23rd, so next Thursday will be the final day that you can enter a team into that cornhole tournament is John Dark with Dark Insurance. It's kind of heading that up. So, again, lots of great prizes up to find a way to the winner. So enter that and come out and support the local community, support everything that's going on around here. We'd love to hear from you. And Scott, up against the close of the program, appreciate you being out here. So for Scott Hardy, I'm Randy Lee saying thanks for tuning in to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
Are tires and car repairs sexy?